Something big is brewing between India and the Middle East, and it is not just about sipping a cup of coffee. Recently, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in the United Arab Emirates and Qatar, inaugurated the first Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi, and the first visit to Qatar after the historic pardon of the 8 Indian nationals. So yes, there were bilateral talks, deals, high-level meetings, all of that. But what's happening beyond the headlines? Look closer. You will notice an increasingly united, mutual development focused, and a collaboration that will benefit both the Middle East and India. See how the Gulf is warming up to India, isn't it? Welcoming our leaders, visiting back and forth even toward India, and exhibiting tolerance of our culture. What could be the reason? It is the thriving Indian community. Members of the diaspora do not just live there, they power the economies in the Gulf. Also, India, remember, meanwhile, is now a stable, rising economy that's open for business. The Middle East is taking notice of India as a bridge to modernization and of investment opportunities. Let's talk facts. A whopping 9 million Indians hustle in the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, which is also called the GCC. In the UAE alone, there are about 3.5 million Indians, making up 35% of UAE's population almost. Residents of Kerala, as we all know, have led in numbers for the longest time in the Gulf nations. And now, there has been a 50% rise in blue-collar workers from across India migrating to these Gulf nations. And this was the data just of first 7 months of 2023. States like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar are turning up in large numbers. According to this report filed by UAE-based group Hunter that connects the migrant workers with the businesses, reflected this rise, and it said, I quote it here, the top 5 states include Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Kerala, Bengal, and Tamil Nadu, while the preferred destinations remain Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman. So the Gulf's got a fresh batch of talent ready to roll up their sleeves and get the job done. Now, reason is that the UAE in particular is investing heavily in the manufacturing sector and therefore welcoming India's skilled workers or unskilled workers, from construction workers, manufacturing technicians, hospitality staff to healthcare support staff also. They are eager for resources, and India has a great amount of both blue-collar and white-collar job workers. Now, this is not just about India's high population or cheap labor, don't get this wrong. The Middle East does not just want men and resources. I'm sure that can also come from Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, or any other nation. Then why is India a favorable country for these workers? Indians are the preferred workforce due to their skills, but also discipline, honesty, and hard work that they are known for as a community. Retired Ambassador Anil Trigunayat says, and I quote him here, Indians, especially in the GCC countries, remit over $35 billion annually to India that adds to our vital foreign exchange reserves, which is the diaspora sending money back home. More importantly, he adds, they really act as India's goodwill ambassadors in other countries. This is why you saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi ensuring an interaction with the diaspora, especially in the Middle East, where thousands gathered in color and excitement to meet him. For example, India-born M.A. Yusuf Ali is a billionaire businessman. He's the chairperson and managing director of the Lulu Group International, the malls that are becoming a boost to the local economy there, but also a familiar visit center for Indians who are outside home. Now, of course, this is not all rosy. There have been serious exploitation charges against these workers, confiscating their documents by the employers. While fewer complaints emerge now, India also has an enhanced redressal system, advisories also to not fall for frauds, but the concern remains. To which I quote the same Hunter Group CEO Samuel Joy, who has said, amid these opportunities, blue-collar workers often grapple with challenges such as financial and contractual issues. And with collaborative efforts between India and the UAE, this is all being diligently addressed to ensure a fair recruitment practice. Because both India and Middle East realize this interdependence will boost ties and help both nations. But India is ensuring that this will not be a one-way progress only for the Gulf. So what does India get from the Gulf nations? India needs the Middle East too, and here's why. A third of India's oil imports come from Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, also known as the GCC. Qatar is also India's leading supplier of liquefied natural gas, which is the LNG. In other words, the bulk of India's energy requirement is taken care of by these 6 GCC countries. Other items include diamond, gold, polymers. But on the other hand, India's exports include finished jewelry, refined petroleum, rice garment, cars, and broadcast equipment too. The GCC nations account for nearly 65% of India's impressive annual remittance of more than $80 billion in the last 3 years. These countries account also for almost 15% of India's global trade. So the numbers clearly show that these countries in the Gulf do play a key role in Indian economy too. An Observer Research Foundation paper noted that trade ties and investment ties between India and the Gulf nations have grown significantly in recent years. I quoted from the paper. With the Gulf viewing India as a favorable destination for diverse investments. Notice Prime Minister Modi's visits, especially to UAE, twice in 2023, July and December. First, to participate in the COP, then World Climate Action Summit. 2 main agreements like trade settlement in local currencies, memorandum of understanding in several areas including renewables, healthcare, logistics, and food parks. And now, not just Indians, but also those in UAE can use the UPI. India's popular digital payment interface has now been introduced in the United Arab Emirates too. Prime Minister Modi and Sheikh Al Nahyan started this service during the former's 2-day visit to the UAE on 13th February. According to an official statement, UPI and AANI, which is the UAE's digital payment interface, have been interlinked. This would facilitate seamless cross-border transactions between Indians and Emirati users. Now let's come to Qatar, which is a more significant and slightly maybe a precarious country to deal with. Emir of Qatar did not just pardon the Indian nationals, but also met Prime Minister Modi on this visit. The body language was for all to see, suggesting a stronger alliance being forged. This has now led to also bringing focus to possibly other Indian prisoners in both UAE and Qatar, about which the government was also asked at a recent briefing. The Foreign Secretary said an extended mechanism are in place. Discussions have been to try an early release or consular access. We are told that Prime Minister Modi expressed thanks to the Emir and also for his support to the welfare of the Indian community. Because for Qatar, energy and technology remain the big cooperation. Recently at India Energy Week, Qatar Energy and Petronet LNG Limited had signed an agreement for the supply of LNG from Qatar to India for 20 years, starting from 2028. Strong bilateral trade between India and Qatar currently stands at about $20 billion. Qatar is also a significant investor in India across the whole range of economies. Also here, MEA's Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra also added that one of the most significant bond is also because of the strong and vibrant Indian diaspora based and living in Qatar, which is roughly about 840,000 strong, vibrant community according to official estimate. India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with the UAE, agreement or linking domestic debit credit cards, the Rupee and Yuan, to maybe then making Rupee more universally accepted across the UAE and other Gulf nations. These are deals that will help India and Gulf diplomatically, politically, of course. But it will be the people on the ground who will act as a living bridge, as partners in progress. Middle East is warming up to India because it is an acknowledgement of the contributions of the Indian community based in those nations and an acknowledgement of a truly diverse, secular, rising India, which promises to be a good friend and partners in progress.